Two things in the gaming news world I want to talk about this week. I'm still traveling, pardon my appearance, but I had to sit down and yap about the Hideo Kojima news, the Kojima production stuff. If you missed it, Hideo Kojima essentially had a Hideo Con or some sort of it was like an Apple event but for Hideo Kojima stuff. There was some ridiculous bullshit, of course, that kind of comes with the territory, the whole credit card thing. But we did finally get a new trailer for the horror game he's working on, in kind of like a collaboration with Xbox Game Studios. I had seen it circulating, some people throwing around that it was canceled. I guess that's not the case now. It apparently is a pretty expensive project. I mean, think about the actors involved here. But this trailer is really good. Interestingly enough, it is very on the nose referencing PT. The redacted text that pops up at the start of the trailer, I read that as like, the revolutionary new horror experience PT, that happened, and this is like the spiritual successor of that. A lot of little subtle references here and there in the trailer I immediately picked up on from PT. The radio static, the worms in the cup. It really just carries that feel, that flavor, which I think is really, really good. You've heard this a million times. You've heard people rave about PT, right? But they had something there, and it influenced a lot in terms of like some indie horror projects and stuff like that, just because it felt so different. It felt distinctly Japanese, but also so dark and so different. So for him to come back, I wasn't sure if the horror was going to feel the same or if he was going to try something different, but now, judging from this trailer, I'm glad you see echoes of what they were trying to attempt there. The trailer to me didn't like completely look like real rendered gameplay, which was disappointing, but I did like just the tone it set and the room the main character walks in, just kind of like a country home, big empty room with rain outside. It just really hit a good feel. It just felt like one of those really good indie horror movies that is just big on cinematography more than anything. But then thankfully, I thought this trailer also had the scares to back it up. The cool reveal at the end, all that worked. And so what we know now is that this game is called OD Knock, which I think is just really awkward. It's just a clunky sounding title, but essentially what this is that OD is the overarching thing, the series, if you will, and Knock is Hideo Kojima's game in this thing, like a sort of horror anthology. Of course, when this was first announced, it was intended to be a collaboration with people like Jordan Peele, people in the horror world. I do know of a few others that are technically involved. I don't know if they've been announced yet, and honestly, I don't know the state of like what those other people are doing, like what they're bringing to the table here, but what is cool is that we're at least getting one from Hideo Kojima and his team, and I think it looks potentially pretty sweet. And now before we keep going, let me tell you about the sponsor of this video. It's Vessi. If you're new around here, you should know that Vessi delivers dependable, comfortable footwear to all of us. It's also 100% waterproof, which is an absolute game changer. If you have a little bit of adventure in your heart, whether it's in the woods, in the city, wherever you live, these shoes have really become a go-to for me. They got all different colors, shapes, sizes, varieties for every type of person, every situation. Lately, I've been rocking the Stormburst. These are the Stormburst lows. They also have Stormburst high tops as well. In fact, I actually took a pair with me to Ireland. And if you know anything about Ireland, you know that it's constantly raining on and off all the time, completely unpredictable weather, and I was always prepared because these waterproof kicks genuinely work, but they don't feel like waterproof shoes. I was able to wear them and look cool. Absolutely breathable footwear with a nice grippy bottom, so whether I was in Dublin, caught in the rain, stepping in a puddle, or out in the woods, exploring somewhere in the hills, I was set. So if you want to check them out, explore without limits with the Stormburst shoe. Of course, they're waterproof and they're backed by a 1-year warranty, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. So all you gotta do is go to the QR code here or click the link in the description down below. It's vessi.com/onjake to get 15% off your first pair at checkout. Again, that's vessi.com/onjake for 15% off. Check them out, stay dry, and big thanks to Vessi for sponsoring this video. Now back to it. Also, it seems like that leak that was like a while back, it was like a kind of third-person horror experience. I thought that was legit. I thought that was like really OD. I guess that leak turned out to not be real, but either way, I'm just happy to have something to look forward to. I'm always just looking forward to playing new things. And the other thing we did get which you're going to be like, Jake, geez, you're hyping over like one piece of art, one poster for a game that's probably not even in like production yet. But we got a look at Fizzant. This is the Hideo Kojima's return to stealth action video game-ness with PlayStation Studios, specifically a collaboration. And we knew this game was coming. We knew it was a thing, but now we have essentially a character poster. Fizzant is still technically a working title, but I like it. It's unique. It's a little weird. Kind of reminds me of like Tenet, but the poster, I think, is incredible. Look, I don't know if Shinkawa did this. I couldn't find confirmation, but it's just quintessential Hideo Kojima and company. I said this in my Death Stranding video. Andrew, I don't know if you could pull this up from my Death Stranding video, but proves once again like how good Hideo Kojima is at what I call quote unquote teenage boy shit. But I mean that respectfully. But what I mean by that is cool guys, sick guns, fucking killing people, robot dogs, crazy monsters, just the stuff that I like. Yeah, what I do like about Hideo Kojima, like when he's at his best, and like you see it with some things in Death Stranding, is he's good at making cool guys. He's good at making like badass cool dudes. As funny as that sounds, like he just specializes in what I've said is teenage boy shit, cool guns, guys in jackets, badass shit. And you had it here and there with Death Stranding, with like, some of the stuff with Higgs, of course, Mads Mikkelsen, and what's his name? I forgot his name already, but Solid Snake, of course. Like the guy gets it, and this image to me totally speaks to that. Just the way it looks. But interestingly enough, like it's kind of like a hybrid type of thing where you can see he's got kind of like a stealth camo tactical gear on that looks a little sci-fi, but then also it's kind of like fading away to reveal that he's wearing a trench coat over it. He's also got a submachine gun at his side. But the trench coat to me is just really giving a couple of things. Number one, the Eastern Europe section from Metal Gear Solid 4, when you're Snake in a smart trench coat walking around. It feels a lot like that. I've seen a lot of people point that out. But also, to me, it's really giving Snatcher, one of the original Hideo Kojima games from way back in the day. But also, Snatcher, and I feel like that jacket and that feel was also heavily inspired by Blade Runner and Deckard's coat in that. So you can see parallels. Obviously, Hideo Kojima always wears influences on his sleeve, but I just like the way this looks. The color palette, the art, the character design, I'm into it. I also like the tease of the main character's face being obscured. It looks cool for the poster. It looks natural, but also just, inspires a lot of curiosity. Who is it? A lot of people are saying, is it Robert Pattinson? Because Hideo Kojima has been pretty upfront about how much of a fan he is, right? But also, apparently, he's teased things, like they've met. I don't know. I don't know if it's Robert Pattinson. People are like pointing at the silhouette and being like, that's definitely Robert Pattinson. I don't know, man. It could be anybody. It's just like a guy's face. It could be me. Honestly, sometimes I think it's interesting when good actors and enthusiastic, talented actors are put in games, but I would like them to just build a new character from the ground up, not inspired by someone's likeness, Solid Snake looks like Solid Snake. He doesn't look like anybody else. Aloy doesn't look like anybody else. I mean, yes, they base off of actors in real life. You know what I mean? Look, I talked way too long about just a poster, but as soon as it dropped, I was like, oh, shit. And I was with other people who were into games at the same time, and we were all like, oh, shit, that's cool. And that's a good feeling, to just be excited about something silly. Is it my phone wallpaper? Not yet, but I've been thinking about making it my phone wallpaper since I saw it. Now, if you're new here, welcome to Two Things, where every Wednesday I talk about two news topics I find interesting. On Game Ranks on the Friday news show, I talk about all the news for you, but here I like to just dig into two topics. The other thing I wanted to talk about this week isn't as positive as yay new Hideo Kojima games. It's Xbox raising prices. This is significant because Xbox has raised prices for the second time in a year. Xbox Series X was $600 recently. Now it's gone up to $650. If you want the special 2 terabyte Xbox Series X, that'll be $800. And if you're just looking for entry level, Series S type business, you're looking at least $400 to $450 depending on storage size. So again, like prices have gone up from $20 to $50, but when you couple in the fact that prices also went up not too long ago, it's starting to get like what are we doing here? And it's not me shitting on Xbox, it's me shitting on everything because excuse me, PlayStation raised prices just a couple of months back, and honestly I think if a tech heavyweight, a tech giant able to make calculated long-term moves and absorb costs, something as big as Microsoft had to pivot embarrassingly twice in a year on price, I don't think Sony is any different, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sony announced a price increase as well. This is like, again, I've talked about this in other videos, but like typically we see console prices go down over time the older they get, not go up, which I think sucks overall for gaming. Less access to gaming. You can argue, you look at the numbers, yes, not a ton of people are buying Xbox Series X's at this point, but still, these prices hitting right before the holidays, it's brutal. And I think it's just like, it feels like this like long dark winter of gaming, from price increases, game price increases, layoffs, all types of stuff, all the bad stuff we've talked about in the gaming news world for so long, right? This just feels like another black eye. And I think this black eye specifically it's just making gaming trickier to get in the hands of people. And now you can say, hey, anyone with a laptop can download and emulate and do whatever, right? But I'm thinking of just kind of like more mainstream, more casual people that don't know that world and are very much just like, I buy an Xbox or I buy a PlayStation at Target. I don't know what it is. Let's play Fortnite. Still, like, I think it's getting harder for random people to jump into games. And I think that's overall a loss, because it means that we're not going to see new gamers come in at a consistent clip. And if the gaming industry, I think, is like not adding new gamers to this type of gaming, right? If they're more pushed now to free to play mobile shit and just like, you know, regular old, like whatever, slop, I don't know how much that's going to translate over to people that like want to buy a PlayStation and play Hideo Kojima's weird game, you know? This, of course, comes from like the whole economic shit show in the United States, where it seems like companies are just finding it really hard to pin down pricing, as inflation and tariffs and all that stuff is like a perfect storm. But it, like, the cynical side of me also, and it's happened with other times like COVID and when other things happen, where companies will potentially have a reason to increase prices, but if conditions change and things get better or whatever, those prices tend to not come down as fast as when they went up. So I see this as like gaming sticking around and being way more expensive for quite some time now. Also, side note too, I see a lot of people like the argument where, you know, console prices now, people are like, well, why don't you just build a PC? Now most people should build a PC. Yes, on the surface, but not everybody in every part of the world has access to those types of parts. Not only that, but also access to those types of parts at competitive, legit prices. So not everyone can just go out and build a PC overnight. As much as I love PC gaming, and I do think it can be the solution, I think it's a little bit more complicated. It's not as black and white. But we're at this interesting point, right? Because even Fizzant, which I talked about in the previous segment, that seems like that's going to be a quote-unquote next-generation game. He said they're going to be working on that for quite a few years. PS6 has kind of floated around in the conversation, in the world. Me on the streets, out in the gaming world, I have heard PS6 like lightly tossed around as something that is an inevitability, and sooner rather than later at this point. Xbox also has been very upfront about trying to continue in the hardware world, and they're working on more hardware. They've talked forever about that, basically since Xbox Series X came out. So we know that new consoles are still in the pipeline, but like, I am terrified to see what the hell those would even cost at this point. Like, when is enough? Like, I think a lot of people are reaching that point, not only with the price of consoles, but also the price of games, where those going up and people are like, all right, my hobby is getting too expensive. I can only put too much into this, you know? So I don't have like a positive way to spin this. I'm like, well, at the end of the day, we all love each other. I don't know. Like, dude, I don't know. Shit's getting expensive. I do think when this happens, you're going to see other shifts that are going to be interesting and more positive. Maybe AA is going to find a way to really fill that void. Maybe we're going to get more compelling, interesting games on mobile because more people have access to a smartphone than an Xbox or a PlayStation. Maybe indie is really going to seize this opportunity. I don't know, but I think shifts are going to happen. It's just a matter of how and when. Game development, of course, is incredibly expensive. I think all the publishers are starting to realize the time and money it takes, and they're probably rethinking that process and how long it takes to make games. But I don't know if we're going to see the results of that overnight. Big corporations tend to move kind of slow. except when it comes to raising prices. But I think that's all I got this week. I yapped a lot, so I want to know what you guys think. It's in the morning here. Coffee's still hitting, but let me know in the comments what you think about Hideo Kojima's Fizzant. Am I annoying for how much I just like this little poster that they released for a game that's not coming out for 5 years? Sure. But are you like me? No. Let me know. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about OD Knock, how you feel about that, and the Hideo Kojima credit card. Don't leave home without it. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Xbox price stuff. I got a little gloom and doomy with that. I want to know where you're at with this. If you get what I'm trying to do here, I'm just talking about stuff I like, stuff I find interesting. Clicking the like button helps me. Thank you. But that's it. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.